All right, so this is Set It Off! This is the actual war. Now, in July of 1861, a man named Winfield Scott, he was like a big-time general during the Mexican-American War, but now he's old as dirt, sends federal troops into Virginia to battle Confederate forces. The armies happened to come across each other at Manassas, Virginia, which was close to Bull Run Creek, and really the battle's called by both names. So at Manassas, Union forces whooped the South until Stonewall Jackson showed up on the field and his troops turned the tide of First Manassas. This also is the battle where Stonewall gets his nickname because the soldier says, "Look up on that hill there. There's Stonewall. There's Jackson standing like a stone wall." And if you want to know more about the Battle of Bull Run or First Manassas, there you go. And there you go again. Now at Manassas, Lincoln replaces his Eastern commander. So his Eastern commander just got whipped. He replaces him, and the one that got whipped is named McDowell. He replaces him with George McClellan. Meanwhile, Ulysses Grant was winning battles in the West over forts like in Kentucky and in Tennessee. And if you want to know more about good old George McClellan, there you go. Now, after Manassas, Jackson wins victories against the North in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. And if you want to know more about Stonewall, there you go. And there you go again. Now, as Grant continued to push forward, he won a victory at the Battle of Shiloh, which horrified both sides because of the heavy losses. Grant's battle strategies were, let's hit these people head on because we got more guys and we can replace guys that die. Also, Union ships began sailing up the Mississippi to capture New Orleans and push on Vicksburg, Mississippi. And if you want to know more about the Battle of Shiloh, there you go. Oh. Now, when George McClellan became general, he took a cautious approach. He was very slow to move, and Lincoln really had to push him to sail down to the Chesapeake area of Virginia in order to make a push on Richmond. So Lincoln pushed him to sail down to the Chesapeake Bay in order to make that push on Richmond. Now, when McClellan moved to Richmond, Lee moved all his units to defend, including calling Stonewall Jackson out of the Shenandoah Valley. He uses McClellan's cautiousness against him, and he defeats him by moving troops around to make the part where the battle line, part of the line where McClellan was attacking, make it full of troops. And it forced McClellan to retreat onto ships, even though Robert E. Lee had a lot less soldiers. And this is called the Battle of 7 Days. You want to know more? There you go. Now, of course, McClellan gets beat, so you know what Lincoln says? He says, "You're fired." And he's removed from command as the Federal Army starts to push into Virginia again. Lee sends Jackson to meet that threat, and Jackson actually routs them at Manassas again. They actually meet at Manassas again, and Jackson routs them through maneuvers at Second Manassas. And if you want to know more about the Battle of Second Manassas, there you go. Now, after Second Manassas, Lee's confidence leads him to send troops into the border state of Maryland. The whole idea is that he wanted to get a Confederate uprising in Maryland. Maryland was a border state, so it was a state that was still with the federal government, but still had slavery. He wanted to acquire resources going into Maryland. He thought the people would want this rebellion. And he maybe thought, if I go into the North, the Europe will think we actually have a chance to win, and Europe will get into the war. Lincoln also, after getting beat up at Second Manassas, he also returns McClellan as the main commander again. Now, the uprising in Maryland does not happen, as Maryland showed little enthusiasm for Lee, mostly because Lee entered Maryland in a pretty pro-federal area. And then the other problem Lee has in Maryland is his battle plans are actually found by Union troops are wrapped around 2 cigars. So Lee doesn't even have the element of surprise anymore. And this leads to the Battle of Antietam. On September 17, 1862, armies converge at Sharpsburg, Maryland, around Antietam Creek for the bloodiest single day in the Civil War.